Let the arguments commence. So, this is something I've been meaning to talk about in an animation junkie for a long time, and it kept sort of slipping off my radar. It came back now because now I've got the Sea You Space Cowboy podcast going, where I'm revisiting Cowboy Bebop. And one of the things that I have to account for when I talk about my reviews of those episodes is that I am watching the dubbed episodes. I am not watching the subtitled episodes. And I didn't go into a ton of detail as to why I make that call, but I kind of want to do that here because I have put a lot of thought into the whole argument of dubbed versus subtitled. And I watch dubbed anime. I'm not ashamed of that. I have no shame in that. And more to the point, I think that's the better way to watch it. And I'm going to explain why. Now, first thing I'm going to say is everything that I am about to say about subtitles versus dubs is specific to anime and animation in general. I do not believe that you should watch live action movies dubbed. Not for the obvious reason, which is that it's way more obvious that the mouths aren't syncing up. That's actually not that much of a problem in anime because the mouths usually just have generic movements anyways, and they don't even perfectly sync up with the original Japanese a lot of the time. So that's not so much an issue there, but the big thing with why I will not watch a dubbed live action movie is I cannot expect that an actor in a booth reading a translated script is going to be able to evoke the same emotion that an actor on set in that moment, working in that environment, was able to get. And I say that even understanding and knowing enough about movies to know, ADR, and a lot of times actors, depending on where the thing is set, especially any exterior scenes, often have to redub their own lines. But if it's the actor who did it originally, they can pull from their own experience and their remembering of being there, and they have the ability to recreate that. I just don't think you can get the same performance out of a guy in a booth that somebody who was on set could have possibly given. However, when we're talking about animation, the original was also just a guy in a booth, which means that at least that big concern for me doesn't exist in anime. So allow me to talk a little bit about the pluses and minuses of dubbing and subbing with anime and why I opt for dubs pretty much every time. I actually don't see a lot of advantage in subtitles. Unless you are somebody who is trying to learn Japanese and you want to hear it more and you just need the subs like as a guide for, wait, what was that? Oh, that's right. Like, okay, sure. That circumstance, maybe. But other than that, it's the weirdest argument for me is people who go, well, I want to hear it in its original language. I want to hear it as the filmmaker intended. Sounds good, but I'm also pretty sure the filmmaker didn't intend you to be staring at the bottom 2 inches of the screen. And I think that detracts a heck of a lot more from what you are supposed to be focusing on than the fact that the language is different than it was originally. Like, that's an argument I will never get. I get hung up on the same thing with manga. When people say, oh, the only way to read manga are the ones that are printed right to left, as in the original Japanese. Except they're also reading one that's been translated. So again, unless you're reading in the original Japanese, why would you do that? Because the reason in Japanese that they read right to left is because that's the direction they read their language as well. So for you as an American to read the book right to left but still read the captions left to right, it's completely disorienting. It's not the original intention of it. You're just being a snob at that point. You're trying to act like you're being more authentic when you're just making the experience weird and awkward. But that's just a minor tangent onto manga off of that point that just bugs me. But beyond that, ultimately, the big thing for me, the only reason that I will ever go with subtitles in an anime is if the dub sucks. And sometimes the dub sucks. One of my favorite anime movies, I love the Ghost in the Shell. It's not my number one anymore, but it was for a long time. I love that movie to death, and I cannot watch it dubbed. The dub is terrible. It's just a flat, unengaging, boring voiceover. It's just bad. And there's a couple of others. Escaflowne, I tend to favor the subtitles because I don't like the dub on a lot of the characters. But the thing is, Escaflowne, Ghost in the Shell, and certainly things that predate them, things being brought over to for American audiences from Japan it was treated as a niche product. It was treated very much as they'll like whatever we give them, just get some voices on it and get it out there. There wasn't a heck of a lot of care put into the voice acting of anime through the 80s and much of the 90s. Once we started to get into the 2000s, actually around the time Cowboy Bebop started to make it over here, we started to get more care put into it. And there were people working on these dubs who were working harder to have decent performances in this. And at this point, I can't remember the last time that I saw an anime film with a lousy dub. I honestly don't remember what the last one was. Now, I mean, again, bear in mind, while I enjoy anime, I'm not deep. I always hesitate to call myself an anime fan, not because I'm not a fan of anime, I am, but generally when people label themselves anime fans, they can start rattling off, all these characters and all these shows that I've never seen. So, it's just the depth of expectation when someone calls themselves an anime fan. But I watch a decent amount of it. I do not remember the last time I saw a flat out bad dub. It's been years. It's been decades. So I don't see the value in watching an anime with subtitles. It's distracting. And in a way that I think is way more distracting than anything the dub could be, again, unless the dub is absolute crap. Because bringing it back to Ghost in the Shell, I loved that movie pretty much immediately, but I also had to watch it twice, basically back to back, to get the proper experience. I had to watch it once, reading it, because there's some anime where the dialogue doesn't matter as much, or there's little snippets and then there's a lot of action. Ghost in the Shell is a really heady movie. What they talk about is important, and it matters to the plot, to the themes, to the characters. So you need to be paying attention. And so I had to watch it twice. Once reading it, and then a second time, now basically knowing it, just glancing down oh, right, that's what they're talking about. And then properly watching. And, you can make an argument, oh, well, that forces you to have a deeper experience. I shouldn't be forced to see something twice to get the experience that I can get out of watching most other things once. If I watch something a second time, I want it to be because I want to see it a second time, not because I need to, because I feel like I didn't get the proper experience yet. So, for those reasons, I will always favor dubs. Now, I don't mean to come across as a jerk, and I think I may have risked doing so, because I'm sure there are people out there who prefer subtitles. But if your reason for preferring subtitles is something other than what I've mentioned, please let me know, because I don't understand. I don't understand what you gain from reading the subtitles as opposed to getting able to actually drink in the visuals and just hear the words, as opposed to having to work overtime to try and follow what's going on. So, whatever your thoughts on this, and absolutely if you disagree with me, please explain to me so I can try and make sense, because I still see it being an argument. I don't even understand how it's an argument anymore. I'm not saying like take away original Japanese and subtitles as an option on like DVDs, which, let's be honest, is how most of us see these movies in the first place. These things almost, unless it's a Miyazaki movie, it never gets a wide theatrical release in the US. So I'm not saying like don't give them the option. It's there on the DVDs. If that's what you want, go ahead and watch it. I don't get it. If someone can explain it to me, I'd love to hear it. Because again, unless the dub sucks, I don't get it. So those are my thoughts on watching animes with subtitles versus watching animes that are dubbed. Oh, you know what? I'll caveat one other thing. None of this really applies to people who watch things that, like, as I understand it, some services for anime, like I don't know, Crunchyroll, maybe some other ones, they basically people see them streaming on those services and a dub is not yet available. Like, it's much easier to get a translation and subtitle it, because when you do a dub, you gotta write the translation, you gotta get actors in, you gotta edit it, you gotta do all this stuff. So people who want to see these shows as quick to the original Japanese air date, and they are willing to accept subtitles in order to do that much I get. I get that. That's about it, though. So whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's a whole bunch of stuff to do. There's buttons and there's links, including one to my Patreon. Check them out if you feel like it. And in any case, folks, remember, you're the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.